Are you a Kari Lake supporter, bro?
Yes.
Okay.
I am a supporter of anyone that's an advocate for free speech, anti-censorship, and freedom and my rights. I'm in Arizona. I thought I was safe. I'm not getting into it, but what they did to Kari Lake, I shouldn't go there. But Arizona was the last free place, or one of them, because like Texas is debatable. Florida's pretty free. South Dakota's free, but Arizona, everyone needs to be paying attention to what happened there.
Yeah,
The Arizona election debacle refuses to go away, as even Joe Rogan is now addressing it. We're going to see the discussion on the largest podcast platform on the planet. We're going to see the latest in Kari Lake's lawsuit, and make sure to stick with me to the very end of this video when I'll reveal what Rogan's coverage means for the future of freedom in our nation. You are not going to want to miss this. Fellow YouTuber Jimmy Cressetti was recently on the Joe Rogan podcast, the #1 podcast in the world, when the issue of the shenanigans surrounding the election in Maricopa County came up.
Are you a Kari Lake supporter, bro?
Yes. Okay. I am a supporter of anyone that's an advocate for free speech, anti-censorship, and freedom and my rights. I'm in Arizona. I thought I was safe. I'm not getting into it, but what they did to Kari Lake, I shouldn't go there. But Arizona was the last free place, or one of them, because like Texas is debatable. Florida's pretty free. South Dakota's free, but Arizona, everyone needs to be paying attention to what happened there.
Yeah, the irregularities when it came to the reports that people had at the places where they were trying to vote is really wild. Like, I wish I knew what was true so I could actually comment on it.
What I witnessed walking my dog in different neighborhoods was a lot of Kari Lake signs, and I didn't see one single one of HOBBS. And Katie Hobbs, like, her social media on Instagram had like 6,000 followers. Like literally on the election night, compared to Kari Lake's at like 300,000. And I'm like, that means something. It doesn't necessarily prove anything, but my point is that people I was talking to, she had a huge following. She was doing all the debates. Katie Hobbs hid. But I know what happened. I mean, I don't have proof.
What do you think happened?
Are you allowed to say these things? Right? These are the things that they go like this to you, Joe. If you go, you know what I mean? This is like one of those things they go like this to you.
You think there was some manipulation that led to someone else winning? Perhaps.
You'd have to be stupid not to conclude that. If anyone that's looked into this, you would have. It's an insult. It's insulting my intelligence to think that something. Let me just say it like this. I just have some questions. That's all.
Well, all the people that was it Maricopa County? Is
yes.
that the area where they had the most irregularities were also the most Republicans?
Yes. Well, yeah. I mean, Maricopa County has a lot of blue to it too. But listen, so, Trump
Lake
won
has
there.
provided no evidence to support her claims of election fraud. Well, this is on Newsweek.com, which is totally unbiased.
I love that. Rogan was being facetious there. You know, of course, Newsweek, totally unbiased, absolutely unbiased, right? In fact, I think Rogan knows that the legacy media is an intrinsic part of this overall pattern of deception. So what you've got there was perhaps the single most publicized, most broadcasted coverage of what's been happening in Maricopa County. As you know, there was a veritable plague of irregularities on Election Day that was actually admitted to by election officials in Maricopa County. They admitted to a radically faulty election. Things were so bad on Election Day that the Arizona Attorney General's office had to get involved. An official letter was sent from the Attorney General's office to Maricopa County officials demanding explanations for the myriad of election issues that raised significant questions as to the county's compliance with state election law. I mean, it was widely observed that broken tabulators led to massively long lines, reportedly turning a number of voters away who never came back, or who did and found that the lines were even longer and said, never mind. The chairman of the Maricopa County elections originally claimed that 20% of voting machines were affected. Well, that number has now reached, by some accounts, as high as 60%, more than half of the voting machines and 3 times what we were originally told. But all those irregularities, even a letter from the Attorney General's office, that didn't matter to the powers that be, who turned around and certified Katie Hobbs' sordid victory in Maricopa County. Other county officials were livid over this. Mojave County, Cochise County, Yavapai, Gila. They all delayed their certification of their votes in protest for the utter incompetence, what really appeared to be nothing less than willful incompetence on the part of Maricopa County election officials. But then the various Board of Supervisors were threatened with lawsuits and with charges of felonies if they didn't certify the election results. Kari Lake's team, of course, sued, and they did get their day, actually 2 days in court. They unequivocally showed first that Maricopa County officials broke chain of custody procedures, rendering hundreds of thousands of ballots as invalid. And secondly, Maricopa County officials misprinted election day ballots, causing mass delays, which experts and legal witnesses testified cost Lake the election. There is no way that anyone watching those proceedings could come away with any other conclusion, as this guest, Jimmy Cressetti, confirmed. Katie Hobbs' legal team, for their part, was an absolute embarrassment. They didn't even deny any of that happened. They just claimed it didn't matter. It doesn't matter. But the judge in this case set the bar of proof higher than what Arizona law requires. The judge required that Kari Lake's team needed to prove that all of those irregularities and mishaps were actually intentional, which is not just ridiculous, it's also not necessary according to Arizona law. If Arizona legal precedent were maintained here, Kari Lake would not have to prove that actual fraud or maladministration of an election took place. All she would have to do is show that there were irregularities, mishaps, mistakes, omissions, all these other issues that bring the integrity of the election outcome into doubt, which is exactly what her team did, made all the more evident by the incompetence of Katie Hobbs' legal team. But the judge in this case maintained these impossible-to-prove standards and found in favor of Katie Hobbs. So obviously Kari Lake is appealing this decision. She's appealing it based on Arizona legal precedent. Again, the key here, according to Arizona law, rationally speaking, she doesn't have to prove what the judge required of her. She doesn't have to prove maladministration. She only has to prove that there were various irregularities that could have inordinately affected the election results, which is enough to render the certification invalid and order a new election, a runoff, presumably in Maricopa County alone, because there just were no other issues outside of Maricopa. Now, all of that said, what's the significance of this being talked about on the biggest podcast program on the planet? It's more amazing than you can imagine. But first, click on that link below and protect yourself and your loved ones from these insane, corrupt elites by protecting your assets with the timeless value of gold and silver. As you know, patriots over the centuries have always relied on gold and silver to protect their assets during economic storms, and that is where the amazing patriots over at Goldco come in. If you have $50,000 or more in an IRA, 401k, or savings account, you need to protect those assets from bumbling Biden's insanity with the timeless value of gold and silver. Click on that link below and talk to our good friends over at Goldco. They're patriots just like us, gang, and they want you to succeed so much. They're offering you up to get this $10,000 in free silver if you open up an account with them. But that is a limited time offer, so don't wait. Click on that link below or visit my special website, turleytalkslikesgold.com. Many commentators are recognizing that we're living in the midst of what some are calling the Joe Rogan revolution. In short, it's an information revolution where knowledge and news are more and more bypassing the old and increasingly irrelevant legacy media gatekeepers and reaching consumers directly. Back in the 19th and 20th centuries, news and information came to us primarily through the mediation of corporate institutions, either in the form of newspapers or the advent of radio and television, the major broadcast networks. As such, these media corporations basically had a monopoly over information dissemination dispersal. Very much the same way the post office had a virtual monopoly over how we communicated with each other long distance before, of course, the phones. Those days are now over. What the Joe Rogan podcast is a part of is the rise of something called the Network Society. Scholars have observed that we are in the midst of nothing less than a massive media revolution. For example, you'll notice that virtually 100% of the initial video documentation of any significant event of late is not coming from news cameras or from satellite trucks. The on-the-ground, in real-life video capturing any significant event comes from eyewitnesses who were present at that event, recording it on their smartphones. That's the network society. It's a new social order that's decentralizing and disestablishing news information via digital networks like the internet. And it's one that the legacy media simply cannot compete with anymore, largely because news and information is now bypassing the legacy media in a manner comparable to the ways in which email and texting bypass the post office. That's why Joe Rogan has an audience literally 5 times the size of CNN and MSNBC and the network news companies combined. So to close the loop here, Katie Hobbs thought she could get away with this because the legacy media would give her cover. The legacy media clearly believes that Trump and the MAGA movement is an existential threat to the nation. What Katie Hobbs didn't count on was that the new media, the media of the network society, bypassing the legacy media and bringing information from Maricopa to light to a wider world, is what is the future. And that's what's happening with Joe Rogan. It promises to help cultivate a far more free and flourishing society, one where the Katie Hobbs of the world will be but a distant and not all too soon forgotten memory. As always, make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. You'll definitely want to check out my latest video on Kari Lake shocking the courts. All his efforts to recall Katie Hobbs have begun. You're going to absolutely love it, so make sure to click on that link, and I'll see you over there. God bless.